7:30 in the morning, 21st of January 2025. I'm taking a video walk around my garden. Such a different day today from how I felt in 2016, on November the 6th, 2016, when we found out that Trump had become president. And I was truly horrified, terrified, and had a deep conviction that the world had become an extremely dangerous place and that terrible things might happen to democracy. Well, today in Australia here, just a few hours after Donald Trump was inaugurated as the American president, I am having a completely different experience. I am just so relieved, so happy, and so incredibly elated that one of his first acts is to rectify the situation that Biden created on the first day of his presidency 4 years ago, when he permitted the crazy idea that human beings could change sex, that gender was infinitely flexible and something to be chosen and claimed by whoever believed that they wanted to be the opposite sex. Oh my God, it's just such a different experience today. I'm ecstatic. So I'm doing a bit of a video walk around my garden, because this is a thing I do almost every morning of the year, start my day in the garden, because it just gives me a kind of meditative space in which I can be in the sunlight, put my feet on the ground, and be amongst the growing things in this little garden world that I've created over about 14 years. So my husband and I started this garden as soon as we moved into our home here in Murrurundi. As I said, that was 2010. And there's been substantial changes here. This garden was nothing like what is here now. This back part of our garden was completely overgrown wilderness. It was full of long grass and really scruffy trees. Unfortunately, to the left here is this gruesome fence that our very pushy neighbours forced us to have created between our properties a year ago. Normally to the left I would have had a view of the ranges around Murrurundi. You can see, moving the camera a bit this way, you can see the top of the ridge over there. That continues along behind that fence, but that site has now been obliterated by some really horrible neighbours. Okay, we're coming into this little space down here where I have a little gazebo, a kind of bamboo gazebo in a very Balinese style. And behind that there's a wooden fence which is the rear boundary of the garden. Once again, this disgustingly ugly wall cuts out the light and the view to the left. I have a little pomegranate tree down there that I've nurtured from a tiny seedling, and probably in about 5 or 6 years' time it might grow high enough to obliterate the monstrous wall. Down here behind the gazebo is the back boundary of the garden. And up behind there you can see the ridge of the mountain, Mount Helen, behind Murrurundi. In front of the camera now is the back of my home studio, my home art studio. This gazebo we built from a kit set. It's been in the garden for about 13 years, and at one time it had a natural thatch roof, but about 5 years ago we realised we had to replace that, so we put the corrugated iron up there. And hopefully, because this is very sturdy bamboo, we hope that we may have the use of this lovely gazebo for a decade or more yet. Now, so I'm walking along the back boundary of the garden, and the sun is to the, I don't know, I think it must be the west. I'm not really good with directions, but the sun is going to be a little bit harsh in a few minutes because I'm going to be walking toward it and in that direction. So I'm hoping I will be able to keep a nice view with the camera and not blind you as we walk up the other side of the garden. I designed this walkway as a meditation walk around the garden, and you know, I can walk around here with it taking 15 or 20 minutes very slowly, or if it's cold and the weather's unpleasant, we can walk around here quite rapidly in about 3 minutes. It's not a huge property. In Australia it's what we'd call a traditional quarter acre. This our house is one of the older homes in Murrurundi. It was built in the Federation era. It was built in 1914, so it's now 111 years old. It's a timber cottage, 3-bedroom workers' cottage. Here we have a little bridge made out of a couple of old railway sleepers, and below that is kind of a bit of a pit there with water that collects. Okay, you can see the brightness on the left. I've got a duck under this paperbark tree limb there, so we're going to duck under there and come up on the far side where I have up there in the camera, that's a lime tree that I also grew from a really small seedling, and it's doing quite well. Next to that lime tree, this little tiny shrub here, which is quite young, is an Australian version of a lime tree, and those weird little black sausagey fruits on there have a very strong lime taste. And of course behind this is the side wall of my home art studio. So look down, back down into the back garden there for a moment. It's a beautiful morning here in Marunda. We've just been through a period of really windy high winds, really scary high winds. A lot of trees came down in the area. The paperbark tree behind me lost a big branch. Up here I've got my 2 vegetable garden beds. They're not very well planted out at the moment. I have phases when I'm doing a lot of home growing veggies, and then others when I lose interest, and we're definitely in a loss of interest phase at the moment. Over there, obscured behind that ivy, is a water tank. Because I live in a very dry climate here, we attempt to catch a lot of our own water for times of the year when we have to pay very high rates to use council supplied water. This old wire fence to the left here is what used to exist on the other side of my property, where I was making very vociferous complaints about the ugly 6-foot high metal wall. Yeah, so now we're going to proceed along here, which is essentially in front of the home studio. In a moment I'm going to duck into this vegetative tunnel here, which hides the front of the studio nowadays. Looking down from our house, you can't see the studio any longer. It's completely obscured by all these big trees here. Okay, so that's the front door of the studio there, and to the left is a little pond under all this foliage here in the middle, down there. And there's a massive fig tree and some palms, other trees in there. This is a little path avenue that leads to the studio door. When I started filming the tour, I went down the path on the other side there. There's a massive fan palm underneath that huge gum tree there, getting quite nicely developed. It's about 10 years old. You may hear some kind of screeching in the background. That's one of my parrots. It's Helena. She's a female ringneck parrot. Back to the veggie garden. To the left is a little old tool shed. Big aviary there is for our eclectus parrots. We have 3, 2 females and a male. There's a hen house, and beside this there's a small aviary where we keep another group of parrots. And here's Big Chook. This is our best layer, this girl. Hello, Big Chook. Book, book, book. Book, book, chook, chook. Have you done your egg today? Good. I'm looking forward to my egg on toast. There we go. Big aviary in the centre of the garden, just behind our house here. Up here is preening himself is Tasman, our male eclectus parrot. Hello Tassie, good morning. Good morning, you old chook. And I'm back to another gazebo we have in the back garden here. Kind of where I started off, walking down these steps behind the house. So, I'm massively optimistic today. For the last 7 or 8 years, I've been deeply disturbed about the rise of gender ideology, and this is the greatest feeling of optimism I've had throughout those 8 years, that we are on a really positive course towards correcting this insanity that's gripped the left, this absolutely groundless belief that human beings can change sex. We're a binary, dimorphic species of mammal, Homo sapiens. We cannot change sex. There are some people who would like to mimic the appearance of the opposite sex. I don't have a problem with what they want to call themselves and how they want to parade before the world. I only have a problem when they start forcing it on me legally, and when they tell women we have less rights because these people have to be supported in their crazy assertions. So long as it's kept out of the legal realm, people aren't coerced to use pronouns, women don't lose their rights and have to share jails with men, children aren't being enabled to believe that they can alter their bodies. So long as all those things stop happening, I feel like I can start living a different kind of a life from now on, because I don't need to be one of those people who are trying to stop this horrible course and what it might lead to. Right, I'm going to end this video at this part of the house because at the moment we're doing some renovations along that side of the house and it's very messy. So hooray, the 21st of January in Australia, inauguration day in Washington in the United States, and I believe this day is the beginning of really substantial, important changes in the world where we can live in a safer, more sane society.